Hi everyone, it's Monica, and today I'm gonna be filming my top 10 favorite books of 2020. I actually managed to read 66 books in 2020, which was a new record for me. Also, I found some all-time favorites last year, which was amazing, of course. I actually ranked my top 10, so in number 10 we have Uzumaki by Junji Ito. It's very hard for me to give you a synopsis of a Junji Ito book because I honestly think you should go into them knowing next to nothing. Basically the story starts right away, so you don't have to know much. But basically, Yuzumaki means spiral, and we basically follow a village that is being haunted by this weird shape, this spiral. That's all you need to know, really. I actually read 2 books by Junji Ito last year. I read Gio or Gio. I need to learn how to pronounce that name, but my favorite was obviously Yuzumaki. This is so weird, is so beautiful and horrible at the same time. I cried, I laughed. This is everything. If you are a fan of horror, you would definitely love Junji Ito, but even if you're not, which I am not, I think you would love it as well. If you are a fan of horror, just go into Uzumaki because it's just that amazing. So I needed to have a Junji Ito book on this list, so Uzumaki made it to the list. It is of course a Japanese manga, and the art in here is absolutely gorgeous, so I really recommend. One thing that I realized this year that I really like in books is, first of all, that I really like weird stories, so Uzumaki is definitely weird. And another thing that I realized is that I really like stories that in the beginning you don't understand what's going on, even in the middle you're still kind of confused, but then it all makes so much sense in the end, and that definitely happens with Yuzumaki. Basically, throughout the book, you feel like you have been reading short stories. They center the same theme, but they feel like short stories, but in the end, they are not, and it makes so much sense. I was super confused throughout the whole book, like, why isn't everything connected? But everything is connected. You just have to wait and see how Junji Ito performs that connection. And my god, it pays off. Number 9 on the list is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgensten. When I was reading this book, I was like, okay, I really don't want to film a wrap-up for this month because I don't want to have to explain this book. And I didn't film a wrap-up for that month, but here we are. I'm gonna have to explain it to you. Please send help. Basically, we follow this guy. I don't remember his name. Zachary Rawlings. He is a college student, and one day he's browsing his university library and he finds a book of short stories. One of those short stories is basically an event that actually happened exactly like it is written there in Zachary's life. So of course he's very confused, like, why is one thing that happened to me explained exactly in a book randomly that I found in the library? So he basically goes on an adventure to understand how that came to be. It's basically that. This book made it to this list because it's one of the best writings that I've read so far, but I have to say that I felt a little bit dumb after finishing it because I felt like I didn't understand it properly. The book itself is so centered about the writing and the world that it doesn't explain that well the plot or the characters, so it's definitely a world building book type of thing. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, that's for sure. And if you read The Night Circus by Erin Morgensten and you found it too whimsical, definitely don't pick this up. This is like 10 times The Night Circus, and I think it was on the verge of being a little bit too much, but it wasn't. Definitely a book that I wouldn't recommend to everyone, but one of my favorites for sure. And one thing that I really want to do is I want to reread this book like at least every 2 years or so, because I think in every reread I will take something different out of it. And yeah, I don't have much more to say, and honestly I don't want to, because this book still confuses me a little bit, but I loved it. Number 8 on the list is Usmaej by Eça de Queiroz. This is a Portuguese classic book and is actually mandatory reading in high school, so I've already read it before, but oh my god, was the reading experience different this time around. I could tell you the synopsis of this book in so many different ways. There are so many different ways of looking at this book. I could tell you that it is a romance, which it is. I could tell you it is a satire of the Portuguese society of the 19th century, which it is. I could tell you that it is a generational story because you follow three men of this family, at least in the very beginning. You follow three different generations and the way three people from the same family can be so different but at the same time so much alike. There's so many different ways of looking at this story, and that's one of the things that I like the most about it. For me, the first time I read it in high school, it was just a romance. I found myself focused on the romantic part of it, and I don't think that's the way I see it right now. I think it made it to my list because I love the way the author looks at Portuguese society. One thing that is written in the back of the book is basically that no one loved his country as much as Eça de Queiroz, but at the same time nobody hated it as much as Eça de Queiroz. He has a way of showing his love for his country at the same time that he reveals all of its flaws, and I relate to that so much, so much, because I love my country. I love living here, I feel safe here, I feel heard here, but at the same time, I don't at all. This book perfectly explains the way I feel about my country in such a subtle way, because again, when you read this book, especially for the first time, you are going to be focused on the romance. I was actually very bored throughout a great part of this book, but in the end, I look back on those parts and they were the reason why I loved it so much. It's basically just our main character interacting with his friends and his frenemies and the little intrigues and stuff like that, but it's kind of boring when you're reading it, but looking back, it's so well done. It was definitely very special to me personally, but even looking at it objectively, I think it is a masterpiece, and I actually think it is translated into English. It's probably called the Maias, I think. If you want to know more about Portuguese culture or anything, I think you would love it. I don't know, maybe. One thing that I really loved as well was that this takes place in Lisbon, and I obviously live in Lisbon, so every single place that it was in, I know where that is, and I can compare it to the image I have in my mind of what it looks like right now. It was so much fun. I actually went to some of the places that are mentioned in the book during the time that I was reading it, and it was so much fun. So yeah, it's definitely a book that of course I wouldn't recommend to everyone, but it definitely was the perfect book for me to read. Number 7 on the list is everybody's favorite book of last year, which is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So in this book we follow Linus Baker, which is a caseworker in the department in charge of magical youth. So basically what he has to do is go to these orphanages and see if everything is going well, if the children are well taken care of and stuff like that. But the thing is, these orphanages don't have normal children. All of these children have powers or abilities or something of the sort. So it's kind of a magical realism / fantasy book. And the thing is, Linus Baker is very good at his job. He's very objective, he doesn't get involved emotionally with the children, he is very straightforward. So he is a perfect man for the job that extremely upper management needs to do. So Linus Baker is sent to a very secluded island that has this orphanage that has very weird children. They're basically scared that these children may be a little too dangerous for the world, and Linus goes there to check if everything is secure, if they are okay, if the world is not going to end because of those children. I think this book could be higher on the list if my expectations weren't that high. But I went into this with so many expectations because it was everybody's favorites. But the thing is, this book is very predictable. Yes, it is. We know from the start what is going to happen. The writing is very good, but it's a little bit too quotey. As you can see, I tabbed a lot because I thought a lot of sentences were beautiful quotes, but I think it has too many sentences that are written in this beautiful way, and they didn't have to. I think the author tried a little bit too much with the writing, but apart from that, it was so cute. It was so fluffy. I loved it so much. As soon as I finished it, I read the first chapter again because I just didn't want it to stop. I just really loved it, and it talks a lot about acceptance, about accepting who you are and accepting who other people are. So yeah, if I didn't convince you, I'll just let the book community convince you, because we're all here to convince you to pick up this book. So number 6 is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. In this story, we follow the Paris Opera House that is basically being haunted by this phantom. But is it? Is he a phantom? Does he really exist? Is he a man? Is he not? Nobody knows, nobody's seen him, nobody knows anything about it, so it's basically a myth. We are following this character named Christine Daae. She's basically, I think, a back singer in the beginning of the book, but she gets really good. She has been taking singing lessons with someone, and she gets really good, so she gets to go to the spotlight of the opera house. And I don't know if I want to tell you more, because after reading the book, I saw a lot of synopses of this book because I searched for reviews and stuff. And one of the things that I found most beautiful about it is in everybody's synopsis of the book. And I don't agree with that. So I'm not going to tell you more than that. But I love this book for a lot of different reasons, especially at the beginning. I thought this was going to be one of my favorite books of all time. And it wasn't even a full 5-star read, maybe because I found myself a little bit bored at the middle of it, but the beginning and the ending of this book are absolutely spectacular. I think I love this story because it was so incredibly beautiful. It's not about the message that it sends, although it's very good. It's not about the characters at all. It's not about any of that. It's the way it is written. It is the way you follow this character, the Phantom in this case, and you are so engrossed in him. Is he bad? Is he good? Is he the villain? Is he the victim? Oh my god, you just feel so many things about this phantom, and at some point you don't even know who he is, what he is. You don't know if you love him, you don't know if you hate him, you just know that you want to read more about him. And I love that so much. And I think one of the reasons I love the book so much was because of the movie. I love the movie so much. The movie is like 3 hours long, and at the end of it I was like, oh no, it's ending, I want more. I loved it so much. Probably because of Andrew Lloyd Webber's hand on it. The songs are beautiful, the characters, the actors, the scenery. I think that's the perfect movie to represent this book, and I can't wait to rewatch it over and over and over again. I definitely need to watch the musical, but do I think that the book is better than the movie? I really don't know. I think they complement each other so well. They have some differences, of course, but I think they all make sense. And I don't know, it's very weird to explain why I love this so much, but I think the movie made me love it so much more because of the songs. Of course, you are not able to listen to the songs while you're reading this, but I just love this to pieces. This is a story that's going to be in my life forever. I know that for sure, and I'm very glad I read it, but I really can't tell you much more because I definitely don't want to ruin the book for you, so I don't want to tell you more of the synopsis, and I really don't know why I loved it so much. I just did. Okay, we're halfway there, and I was actually looking at my list and I'm kind of torn about which one to put on number 5, but I'm going to go with my first instincts, and I'm going to go with We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. We are following this girl named Mary Catherine, or Mary Cat, and she lives in a very old house with her sister Constance and her uncle Julian. And everyone in the village hates them. We actually don't know exactly why they hate them. All we know is that the rest of the family, because there used to be a bunch of them, the rest of the family was killed in a very weird accident that happens a few years prior to the beginning of the story. So there's definitely a little bit of a mystery in there, what happened to the family. There's definitely the mystery of why does everybody hate them. But what I loved about this is the way that it's written, the writing. Oh my god, the writing! I can't wait to pick up something else by Shirley Jackson. Of course, she wrote The Haunting of Hill House, which I still have yet to read, and I really want to. But I have some friends that actually prefer this one to The Haunting of Hill House, and I trust them, so I think if you want to read something by Shirley Jackson, just pick this one up. It's that good. Mary Cat, Constance and Uncle Julian are very weird people, but they are very different from each other. They live in the same house, they went through the same thing that happened to them, which was losing the rest of the family, but they are all so different. Mary Cat is a very weird girl for some reasons. Constance is a very weird girl for other reasons, and Uncle Julian is just straight out a little bit crazy. So, oh my god, just to be able to follow these characters, it's such a privilege, I feel like. And this was so good. After we get to meet a little bit of the characters, another character comes in, which is their cousin Charles. And basically the story starts from there. But I couldn't care less about cousin Charles. And in the movie he's played by Sebastian Stan, so that's saying something. Everything that happens in this book, you are always like, what? What just happened? What is happening? Why does it keep happening? Why are they acting like this? Why are they okay? This is the most weird story I've ever read. And yes, I've read Yuzumaki. This is the weirdest story I've ever read. And oh my god, it is good. So I may be a little bit too emotional about this. I actually think, staring at it right now, that it should be higher on the list, but nevertheless, you've heard me rave about it, so now you know that I love it that much. Number 4 is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is a very difficult story. There's a lot of trigger warnings in this. I don't think it is for everyone. I think you should be cautious before going into it, so I think you should learn about that beforehand. So basically, we are following two perspectives of the life of this girl. In one of them, she's 15 years old, she just went to this boarding school, and she's basically having classes there, and one of the professors starts to take advantage of her, basically. But she doesn't understand it that way. She thinks it's real love and that they are meant to be together. It's hard to read, please be cautious before going into it. If it's something that triggers you, please, please, please. In the other perspective, she is 32 years old and they are obviously not together, and the case has been brought up to attention by another girl that he allegedly abused as well. So our main character is now being faced with this fact. Was she abused? Was she not? One of the main reasons I love this book is because she is just now coming to terms with how she feels about what happened to her. And is she obligated to talk about it, to talk to the world about what happened to her, to seek help, to speak up, because it may be happening to other girls right now? Is she obligated to do that? Or does she have the power to control what she wants to do with her life? I think that's the most important message of this book. You don't always have to be ready to take the right step. You can live your life at your own pace. And I think that's the most important thing that I personally take out of this book. If you feel like it, and if you feel like you should, and if it's okay, please pick it up. It's a very important read, and it's marvelously written. I can't believe this is a debut novel. I can't wait to pick up anything else that the author puts out, because I just loved it a lot, and I will definitely support her from now on. So number 3 on the list is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sáenz. I can't even remember exactly how this book begins. There is basically this boy, which I think is Aristotle. And he's a very lonely boy, he doesn't have friends, but one day he actually finds a friend, which is Dante. And Aristotle, from what I remember, is a very, I wouldn't say grumpy, but he's a little bit of a grumpy kid. He's very mad about life, and he's very mad about the way his parents treat him and about the way the world views him. But Dante is such a cheerful character. He's so positive and he always sees the best in everything, and the way they connect and form this friendship, and the way they change each other just a tiny bit, and the way their lives get so much better because of each other. Everyone that I know that read this book loved it to pieces, because this is probably the cutest book I ever read. I think that's the best way of describing it. It's cute. It's a very cute book. Please pick it up if you have the chance. It's just so sweet, and I think it's definitely a must read for everyone that likes young adults. So yeah, pick it up. Okay, now I can't, for the life of me, choose between these two books. There is no number 2 on this list. We have 2 number 1s. I just can't. They're very different. They don't have anything to do with each other. Don't ask me to choose because I won't. So one of the books that is on the number 1 spot on this list is I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy. Are we surprised? Obviously not. I can't even explain to you how much this book means to me. Of all of the books that I ever read, if I had to choose a book that I would relate to the most, it would probably be this one. In this book, we follow these 2 siblings. They are twin siblings. It's a boy and a girl, and we follow them at the age of 13 and we follow them at the age of 16. When they are 13, we're following the perspective of Noah, and everything is fine. His relationship with his sister is amazing. They are so good to each other. They are basically 2 teas in a pot. They are the perfect siblings. However, when they are 16 years old, we follow the perspective of the other sibling, the girl named Jude. And at that point of their lives, they don't talk to each other, they hate each other, they can't stand being around each other, and we don't understand what happened. That's basically the whole synopsis of the book. And I will say this forever. This cover is ridiculous. I mean, I love the cover, actually. I think it's a very good cover. But it has nothing to do with the book. I picked it up thinking that I was going to read a fluffy contemporary romance, and that's not what this is. I cried my whole way through it. By the way, when I say I cried, I didn't actually cry. I'm just exaggerating. I just felt very, very sad. So yeah, like I was saying, if you never picked up this book because you thought it was just another fluffy contemporary, no. You're mistaken. This is so different. This is such a unique story. I never read anything like it. The reason why I connect to this book so much, and I think that it's the book that I have read so far that I connect to the most, is because you don't see the whole story until you see all of the perspectives from everyone involved. These siblings are mad at each other, but they don't even listen to each other. So that is something that is very important to me. Even when I am like 99.9% sure that I am right, I always want to listen to the other part of the story. Even if I don't demonstrate it, even if I'm too proud, like everybody is a little bit proud, just don't be, because you are missing out on so many things if you don't stop and listen. So the other first book on the list is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Brontë. Again, we're not surprised, it's a Brontë book. This was the only Brontë book I read in 2020, which is something that I really want to change this year. I want to read the rest of the Brontë books that I have this year. Let's see how that goes. In this book, I don't want to tell you what is in the back of it, so if you have this edition, don't read the back of it, just don't. Because for me, it's a huge spoiler. Thankfully, I just read the back when I was like in the middle point of it, and the thing that tells in here had already happened. It's something that I've come to realize with synopsis. I never read the synopsis beforehand. I read the synopsis like halfway through the book. Because for me, this is a huge spoiler. Basically, we follow this town that has a very big mansion called Wildfell Hall, and a very strange and mysterious woman comes to live there with her child. And she's weird, she doesn't let anyone come near her, she's very cold to everyone, she keeps to herself a lot, and everybody in the village is so welcoming, and they have parties, and they gossip, and they talk about each other, and they talk with each other, and she just doesn't want any of that. She just wants to be left alone in her little corner. But there's this guy in the village that starts to have feelings for her, so he tries to get a little bit closer to her. And that's how we came to realize what happened to this woman, why she is the way she is, who is she, what is she hiding, is she hiding something, what happened. The most brilliant thing about this book is when it was published. The fact that it was published in the 19th century. This is probably one of the first feminist books that ever came out. I think Charlotte Brontë, which is her older sister of course, didn't want her to publish this book because it was dangerous. The way that she was going to be perceived by society was not good, but Anne just published it anyway. I am so proud of her. You have no idea. I am so glad she didn't listen to anyone and she just went with her guts and published the damn book. because this is what women needed, and this is what women still need these days. I feel that with classics, sometimes the writing is very difficult. For example, in The Phantom of the Opera, although it's a translated book, I read it in English and the original is obviously in French, but even in that book I felt that the writing was a little bit too difficult for me. And I've read Jane Eyre in Portuguese, so it doesn't count, but I read Wuthering Heights by her sister Emily Brontë, and I found the writing so difficult, so difficult. But I read this and I didn't. I found it so easy, it flows so well. This is massive, this is a very big book, and it's a classic of course, but it doesn't feel heavy, it doesn't feel big, it feels complete. And I think that's one of the beauties of it, because every single word in here makes sense and deserves to be here. Between these two, it's completely impossible. As you can see, one is a contemporary, the other one is a classic. I can't choose, they are perfect for different reasons, so please read both of them and read all of the other ones, because I loved my reading of 2020 so much, and I just am so excited that I found some new all-time favorites. Of course, I'm talking about these two, but honestly, I don't know why I put We Have Always Lived in the Castle in number 5, because it's probably a number 3 or something like that. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I gave you some good recommendations and that you can read some of my favorites. If you have read any of these books, please let me know down below. I would love to talk to you guys about any of them. I'm going to leave all of my links and handles down below for you guys so you can check it out, and I will see you in my next one.